President Trump has signaled that the United States could exit the Iran conflict quite quickly, stating that mission goals in the 5-week-old operation are largely being met. Iran is demanding a permanent and guaranteed ceasefire to end the war, while rejecting any temporary pauses proposed by the United States as long as the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked. President Trump has claimed that Iran's navy has been effectively destroyed, and its air force lies in ruins after more than 13,000 combat flights carried out by American and Israeli forces. The United States has made it clear it will not accept any ceasefire until the Strait of Hormuz is fully reopened to international oil shipping. Reports indicate that an attack on a residential building in Tehran injured former Iranian Foreign Minister Kamal Karachi, with Iranian sources suggesting it was an attempt to sabotage ongoing diplomatic efforts involving U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. The U.S. Air Force is significantly increasing its firepower in the region by deploying an additional 18 A-10 attack aircraft to the Middle East. Global oil prices have fallen to $101 per barrel as markets respond positively to signs that a ceasefire in the Middle East may be approaching. Russia claims to have completed the liberation of the entire Luhansk region in Ukraine, a statement that has been strongly denied by Ukrainian officials who say their forces still control key positions. Ukrainian forces report downing nearly 300 Russian drones in overnight attacks while launching their own long-range strikes on Russian ports and energy facilities. Russian casualties in the Ukraine war have now surpassed 1.29 million since the invasion began in 2022, with more than 1,000 soldiers reported killed or wounded in the past 24 hours alone. Brent crude and WTI oil futures have dropped below $100 per barrel as traders sell off the war premium amid hopes of de-escalation in the Middle East. Asian stock markets posted their strongest gains in a year, with the MSCI Asia-Pacific Index rising sharply on expectations that Middle Eastern energy routes may soon reopen. European markets rallied strongly today, with the UK's FTSE 100 closing up 1.85%, Germany's DAX gaining 2.7%, and Italy's FTSE MIB rising 3.1%. The US dollar index fell by 0.5% as safe haven demand for the greenback eased with improving prospects for peace in the Middle East. The Bank of England has warned that the Middle East conflict has delivered a substantial negative supply shock to the global economy and could leave 1.3 million more British households facing higher mortgage payments. The U.S. Federal Reserve has decided to keep interest rates unchanged in the range of 3.5 to 3.75%, citing uncertainty caused by the ongoing war. Analysts at S&P Global warn that the recent oil price shock could push U.S. headline inflation close to 4% this year. American factories are reporting a sharp rise in input costs due to persistent supply chain disruptions from the blocked Strait of Hormuz. Despite a broader market rally, hiring in the transportation and utilities sectors continues to decline because of sharply higher jet fuel and diesel prices. Gold prices remain near record highs, trading just below $4,800 per ounce, as investors continue to hedge against long-term instability in the Middle East. Asian stock markets posted their strongest gains in a year, with the MSCI Asia-Pacific Index rising sharply on expectations that Middle Eastern energy routes may soon reopen. European markets rallied strongly today, with the UK's FTSE 100 closing up 1.85%, Germany's DAX gaining 2.7%, and Italy's FTSE MIB rising 3.1%. The US dollar index fell by 0.5% as safe haven demand for the greenback eased with improving prospects for peace in the Middle East. The Bank of England has warned that the Middle East conflict has delivered a substantial negative supply shock to the global economy and could leave 1.3 million more British households facing higher mortgage payments. The U.S. Federal Reserve has decided to keep interest rates unchanged in the range of 3.5 to 3.75%, citing uncertainty caused by the ongoing war. Analysts at S&P Global warn that the recent oil price shock could push U.S. headline inflation close to 4% this year. American factories are reporting a sharp rise in input costs due to persistent supply chain disruptions from the blocked Strait of Hormuz. Despite a broader market rally, Hiring in the transportation and utilities sectors continues to decline because of sharply higher jet fuel and diesel prices. Gold prices remain near record highs, trading just below $4,800 per ounce, as investors continue to hedge against long-term instability in the Middle East. President Trump has issued a strong ultimatum, warning that the United States will strike Iran extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks to bring the country back to the Stone Age unless a deal. IES has presented Iran with a 15-point peace proposal that includes the complete dismantlement of Iran's uranium enrichment program and the permanent reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump has publicly declared the new Iranian Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, as unacceptable, indicating that Washington may still seek deeper leadership changes in Tehran. The Iranian Foreign Ministry has denied any direct talks with the United States and described Washington's demands as maximalist and irrational. Hardliners appear to have consolidated power in Iran following the death of pragmatic figure Ali Larijani, with the appointment of Mohammad Bagher Zalgadar strengthening the influence of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Nationwide protests against the Iranian government have reignited in more than 200 cities despite the ongoing war, driven by economic hardship and rising casualties. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has proposed an Easter ceasefire in the conflict with Russia, though Moscow has not yet responded formally. Analysts suggest Russia is emerging as an unexpected political beneficiary of the Iran war, as it diverts Western attention and has led to some easing of restrictions on Russian energy exports. The Middle East conflict has strained unity within NATO, with Germany backing U.S. objectives while Spain and Italy have restricted access to their bases and questioned the legality of the strikes. In women's football, Bayern Munich knocked Manchester United out of the Champions League quarterfinals with a 2-1 victory in the second leg, advancing on a 5-3 aggregate score. Iraq has qualified for the FIFA World Cup for the first time in 40 years after defeating Bolivia 2-1 in their Interconfederation playoff match in Mexico. Lionel Messi scored a goal and provided an assist as Argentina defeated Zambia 5-0 in a friendly match, with coach Lionel Scaloni saying it would be a privilege if Messi continues through to the 2026 World Cup. Police in Spain are investigating reports of Islamophobic chants directed at the Egyptian team during a goalless friendly match, which Spanish star Lamine Yamal has condemned as utterly intolerable. In the Indian Premier League, Delhi Capitals staged a remarkable comeback against Lucknow Super Giants, chasing down 142 runs after being reduced to 26 for 4, thanks to an unbroken century partnership between Samir Rizvi and Tristan Stubbs. Pakistani fast bowler Naseem Shah has been fined 20 million Pakistani rupees by the PCB for a deleted tweet that compared a politician's security convoy to the Queen at Lord's. New Zealand women's team has set a new world record for the highest successful run chase in women's ODI history, successfully chasing 347 runs against South Africa, powered by Amelia Kerr's unbeaten 179. LeBron James has set a new all-time NBA record for the most career wins, combining regular season and playoff victories, during the Los Angeles Lakers' 127-113 victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Paul George scored a season-high 39 points in just his fourth game back from suspension, leading the Philadelphia 76ers to a 153-131 win over the Washington Wizards. The Chicago White Sox have postponed their home opener against the Toronto Blue Jays until Friday due to expected heavy rain in Chicago. Police in Brooklyn are searching for suspects after a baby was killed by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting, an incident that has renewed debates about gun violence in urban areas. State investigators have uncovered serious safety violations in the explosion that killed 2 Los Angeles County deputies earlier this year, opening the door for potential legal action. The death of a refugee who was dropped off at a Buffalo donut shop by Border Patrol agents has been officially ruled a homicide, triggering protests and calls for accountability. New DNA evidence has linked the 1974 murder of a Utah teenager to serial killer Ted Bundy, finally providing closure to a decades-old cold case. Residents in northern Minnesota are preparing for a 1-2 punch of winter weather, with up to 8 inches of heavy wet snow and freezing rain forecast over the next 2 days. President Trump has announced plans to relocate the U.S. Forest Service headquarters to Utah and close several research sites, drawing criticism from environmental groups but support from local officials. Colorado is experiencing record-low mountain snowpack levels for early April, raising serious concerns about water availability and agriculture in the drought-affected western United States this summer. The governor of Washington has signed a new law tightening standards for county sheriffs, a move that has divided law enforcement and civil rights groups in the state. Lawmakers in Rhode Island have introduced legislation that would use speed-limiting technology to restrict habitual reckless drivers in what would be a first-of-its-kind traffic safety measure. Mississippi lawmakers have passed a bill that would criminalize the possession of abortion-inducing medication, sending it to the governor's desk for approval. The Indian Ministry of Defense has announced a record year, signing over 500 capital procurement contracts worth approximately 2.3 lakh crore rupees, or $27.5 billion. India's Defense Ministry has signed a 1,950 crore rupee contract with Bharat Electronics Limited to supply 2 advanced mountain radars for the Indian Air Force. Several new Make in India defense projects have received approval in principle, including the anti-tank mine Viraj and air-dropped canisterized swarm drones. India is proceeding with the purchase of 5 additional S-400 missile defense systems from Russia to strengthen its long-range air defense capabilities. The U.S. Department of War has awarded Raytheon a $773.5 million contract modification for continued development of the AND/TPY-2 radar system. OpenAI and the U.S. Department of War have updated their partnership agreement, clearly defining red lines that prohibit the use of AI for domestic surveillance or autonomous lethal weapons. Global defense spending is projected to reach $2.6 trillion by the end of 2026, marking an 8.1% increase driven by ongoing conflicts. Major Indian defense companies including HAL, BL, and Garden Reach shipbuilders have seen strong gains in their stock prices following announcements of record orders and turnovers. Thanks for watching until the end. If this was helpful, hitting like and subscribing is the best way to stay updated with my daily posts. What was your opinion? Let me know in the comments.